Journey with the Jesuit Volunteers Across Montana, A Commemorative History by Donna Schenk Peterson. On 8 August 2004, four complete strangers embarked on a new adventure. Arriving in Portland, Oregon from New Jersey, Washington, Chicago, and New York, these four young women formed the new group of Jesuit Volunteers, JVs, being sent to Hays, Montana on the Fort Belknap Indian Reservation. United by Jesuit Volunteer Corps, JVC values, spirituality, social justice, simplicity, and community, these four would teach at St. Paul's Mission. Their new home was an old convent, but these women were not training to become nuns. Rather, they had chosen to volunteer as teachers for a year, living off government commodities and a stipend of $80 a month. Despite these financial limitations, the experience was extremely rewarding and changed their lives completely. This essay will sketch out the history of JVC Northwest, with particular emphasis on the JVC placements in Montana, where I served as a JV from 2004 through 2006. The Jesuit Volunteer Corps, a Roman Catholic organization, originated in Alaska under the guidance of the Jesuits, the Sisters of St. Anne, and the Ursuline Sisters in the mid-1950s. Since 1886, the Jesuits had been working with Alaskan communities to promote educational opportunities for Native children. In 1956, a Jesuit school opened its doors to the children living in Copper Valley, Alaska, approximately 170 miles east of Anchorage. The Jesuit colleges and the St. Anne Sisters recruited young Catholic college graduates to fill the teaching positions at the new school. These young volunteers not only taught, they also helped build the school with construction material left over from the Korean War. In the process, they endured freezing temperatures, limited showers, and a lack of running water. During the 1960s, Father Jack Morris, S.J., a teacher at Copper Valley School, provided a name, JVC, for the Alaskan Volunteers, and thus JVC Northwest came into being. Then, in 1965, Father Morris established the organization's administrative headquarters in Portland, Oregon, and became the director of JVC. Over time, he guided the fledgling organization into a prosperous volunteer program. As Father Morris would later claim, quote, "The Jesuit Volunteer Corps was twice as old as the Peace Corps, twice as tough, and 10 times more rewarding," end quote. After JVC formed in Copper Valley, the program began to extend beyond Alaska. It soon took root in the Pacific Northwest and eventually crystallized into, quote, "the largest full-time lay Catholic volunteer program in the United States," end quote. As JVC gained momentum, it branched out to communities in the Midwest, 1974, East Coast, 1975, Southwest, 1977, and South, 1980. It became an international program in 1984. Each region operated in conjunction with the others while maintaining independent bureaucracies. In December 2006, JVC decided to merge all of the regions under one centralized administration. However, JVC Northwest chose to remain independent, although they still cooperate with and espouse the same beliefs as the other JVC regions. The board of directors for JVC Northwest felt that, quote, "those who experience marginalization and oppression and the JVs working with them are best supported at a local level. That the JVC Northwest mission is best served if decisions are shaped from the bottom up, with input from the persons closest to the placements and the volunteers," end quote. Therefore, as JVC grows and changes over time, JVC Northwest continues to stand alone as the oldest region with a separate identity. JVC Northwest comprises Alaska, Washington, Oregon, Idaho, and Montana. JVs interact with children, the elderly, the impoverished, the sick, the oppressed, and the inspirational. JVs both live in rural environments like Hays in Ashland, Montana, and work in inner cities such as Portland, Oregon, and Seattle, Washington. From 2007 through 2008, 72 JVs made up 14 communities in the Pacific Northwest. This figure has grown. In 2012 to 2013, 142 JVs served in 24 communities. Jesuit volunteers commit to serve their immediate and surrounding community for a year, but the bond often lasts for a lifetime. As each volunteer takes hold of the ideals espoused by JVC, he or she becomes, quote, ruined for life, end quote. First, JVs live in intentional communities, which require time and energy. An intentional community means that each volunteer house, which can include 3 to 8 members, needs to respectfully come to terms with individual differences and preferences, actively listen to each other, and engage in activities that help the household grow together. In order to enhance communication and create lasting friendships, JVC suggests that households schedule one community night a week. JVC also promotes social justice, simplicity, and spirituality. JVs work in a variety of environments conducive for executing social justice, such as the classroom, soup kitchen, and medical facilities. JVs strive to meet the emotional, physical, intellectual, and spiritual needs of others. They hope to administer relief, however fleeting, against injustice and poverty. JVs promise to live simply by conserving resources. They attempt to live eco-friendly and forgo frivolous spending. Living in a faith-based community, carrying out the Christian gospel's theme of social justice, and consciously supporting simplicity strengthens a JV's spirituality. JVC also provides each JV community with the opportunity to come together as a larger family for orientation and 3 retreats a year. The retreats focus on the core values. JVs sent to St. Paul's Mission in Hays, Montana find themselves in a tiny town nestled inside Fort Belknap Indian Reservation. Quote, a closed reservation with only 5% non-Native American people, end quote. The closest towns outside of the reservation are Harlem, Chinook, Landusky, and Zortman. But the big town is Havre, approximately an hour-and-a-half drive from Hays, which has 2 grocery stores, a mall, a Kmart, a movie theater, a McDonald's, and other conveniences. Besides Havre, residents of Hays can travel 3 hours directly south to Billings or head west to Great Falls. For many JVs, St. Paul's Mission appears remote. Ann Wambecki, a former JV from 1992 through 1994, commented that the JV car only got 10 miles to the gallon, so her house felt pretty isolated on the res. The Jesuit priest, under the leadership of Father Ebertschweiler, set up St. Paul's Mission and built a school in 1887. Fort Belknap Indian Reservation, established on May 1, 1888 by the U.S. government, is home to the Gros Ventre and Assiniboine Indians. The Gros Ventre and Assiniboine face oppression, poverty, drug and alcohol abuse, and the disintegration of their language and traditions. Diabetes and other health concerns also plague the community. In 1981, quote, the rate of unemployment at Fort Belknap was 70%, end quote. And by the 1990s, quote, 40% of those employed had an income of less than $7,000 annually, end quote. Despite the hardships, the Gros Ventre and Assiniboine people continue to persevere. Many natives look to education as an avenue to attain greater economic stability and as a means to revive their language and culture. By 1969, JVs began teaching at Mission Grade School and High School. From 1970 through 1971, the JVs included Margaret Hickey, who acted as the librarian and taught 7th and 8th grade, Patrick Hardy, who taught physical education, mathematics, ethics, economics, and offered guidance counseling, Shelley Burris, who taught Spanish, physical education, and also offered guidance counseling, Dennis DeFell, who taught grade school science, Jean Weiss, who taught 3rd and 4th grade, and Ann Belanti, who taught 5th and 6th grade. The JVs became an essential part of the mission staff. They were more than teachers, for they also served as role models for the students. 6 JVs worked at the mission teaching in various capacities, either at the grade school, middle school, or high school from 1969 through 1974. On December 5, 1973, a fire destroyed the high school. The mission continued to operate, however, educating students in 1st through 8th grades. In 1980, 3 Dominican sisters, including Sister Helen Darso, arrived at St. Paul's Mission. At the time, the grade levels were paired together, so the JVs and Catholic sisters were expected to teach a wide breadth of material. For instance, Sister Helen taught 1st and 2nd grade, while a JV was in charge of 3rd and 4th grade, and so forth. Besides teaching, JVs drove the school bus and maintained the school, which included cleaning the bathrooms on Fridays. One JV offered a shop class to the 7th and 8th graders, while another JV taught physical education. During the 1980s, Mission Grade School decided to focus on strengthening the educational system from the bottom up. Therefore, they added a kindergarten class and eliminated the 7th and 8th grades in 1985. In 2003, JVC Northwest informed the JVs in Hayes that the administration had decided to close the placement due to a shortage in applicants for JVC, a lack of funds, and the belief that the job was not challenging enough. The 2002 through 2003 Hayes JVs, which included Jess St. Jean and Laura Manning, were irate because they loved their students at Mission Grade School. Sister Helen was distraught because it seemed impossible to recruit teachers to such a remote area. Worried that the children would suffer without competent teachers, Manning and St. Jean, along with a former JV from St. Labre, decided to stay a second year in Hayes as employees of the Diocese of Great Falls. Although their loyalty remained with the school rather than with JVC, the former JVs understood that JVC helped sustain Mission Grade School. Therefore, Sister Helen worked to secure JVs for the upcoming year, while the former JVs rewrote the job descriptions, emphasizing the challenging yet rewarding nature of being a teacher. Then in August 2004, the 4 female volunteers, Barb Leah, Megan Rafferty, Maureen Gardner, and Donna Shank, were assigned to Hayes. Previously, JVs were selected to be teachers in charge of a grade level, but this year was different. 2 new positions, a reading specialist and a classroom aide, were created as Native teachers from within the community were hired for the 3rd and 4th grade positions. Rafferty, the reading specialist, and Gardner, the classroom aide, had to mold and define these jobs. Gardner became an asset for the other teachers, but also built a niche for herself as the librarian. By 2005, Gardner's job title would become librarian/elementary aide. Before the 2008-2009 school year, a few boys broke into the mission and a fire ignited, burning the school to the ground. The incoming JVs had the challenging task of teaching in a temporary facility with limited supplies. Margaret Matt, the 2nd grade teacher at the time, admits, quote, "We taught in cramped spaces, but with the children eager to learn and support from the community, we were able to make the best of the situation," end quote. In January 2010, the students and teachers joyfully began class in their brand new school. The job of the teacher extends beyond the last bell. JVs, along with the other teachers, grade the papers, prepare for the next day of class, organize the arts and crafts projects, and clean the classroom. In addition, JVs run honor night in the school gym on Thursday evenings, organize a volleyball league for the community, and host a roller skating night in the recreation center every few weeks. Also, there is turkey bingo, the Christmas show, First Holy Communion, and graduation to look forward to. The JVs maintain a busy schedule, but truly enjoy their time with the children and the larger community. In the end, the JVs probably learn as much from the mission macaronis, as Sister Helen fondly calls the children, as the students learn from them. Since 1969, JVs have established a constant presence in Hayes. The volunteers help form the backbone of the primary education system at the mission, and the people of Hayes generously welcome each new group into their homes and hearts. A similar pattern developed at St. Labre Indian School, approximately 300 miles southeast of Hayes, Montana, where former JVs continue to interact with the community on a daily basis. The St. Labre volunteers live in Ashland, Montana, which is right outside the Crow and Northern Cheyenne reservations on the Tongue River. In 1884, the Ursuline sisters, under the leadership of Mother Amadeus Dunn, founded St. Labre Indian School. Just like the Gros Ventre and Assiniboine, the unemployment rate remains high for the Crow and Northern Cheyenne, but so does their, quote, desire for quality education for all, end quote. During the 1970s, JVs began arriving in Ashland to work at St. Labre Indian School. Quote, in 1 year alone, 1978, there were 11 volunteers. Almost all of the volunteers have come through the Jesuit Volunteer Corps. Each receives food, lodging, and a small monthly allowance. Very little in comparison to the worth of their contributions to the life of the mission. Since the 1970s, the JVs have interacted with the young students on a daily basis, sharing their joys and frustrations. St. Labre JVs are dispersed to different placements and work varying hours. In 2004, 7 JVs, Jeanette Moline, Felisa Javier, Regina Bradati, Eric Holt, Pete Rakowski, Teresa Engel, and Sarah Newth, journeyed to St. Labre Indian School. Bradati and Engel worked in the elementary school as reading specialists. When they left school, Newth and Rakowski began their job. These two were dormitory assistants from 3 o'clock in the afternoon until 10 o'clock at night. Many students, such as those from the Crow Reservation who lived a good distance away, boarded St. Labre during the school week. The JVs serve as mentors by assisting the children with their homework during the study hour or by providing recreational opportunities such as a movie night. The other position open for JVs in 2004 was at the Tall Whiteman Youth and Eagles Nest group homes. Agents from St. Labre Youth and Family Services place children in the group homes if no other option exists for them. Children from ages 6 to 17 live in the group homes, and especially for the little ones, the JVs become pseudo-parents. The 2007-2008 JVs included Matt Altieri and Michelle Shortsleeve, the dormitory assistants, Cassie McHugh, a house parent, Stephanie Pang and Susan Foster, the reading clinicians, and Joe Witu, a high school tutor. These Ashland JVs maintained a weblog of their experiences at St. Labre, which provides insight into some of the duties of the dormitory assistants. For instance, Altieri and Shortsleeve were expected to plan an Advent service for December 19, 2008. Altieri admits, quote, frightened by the prospect of forced prayer with kids already anxious for break and hyped up by classroom parties with too many candy canes, we decided on the only alternative, a pageant, end quote. The performance was a success. Another endeavor for the two dorm assistants was resurrecting dorm council. In January 2008, Shortsleeve wrote, quote, this fall, as Matt and I watched the kids come home from school and plop in front of the TV, as we watched them struggle on their own with the same subjects, we decided the dorm needed social and academic leadership. As JVs, sometimes our ideas are cool, and other times, well, we're the JVs, end quote. Altieri and Shortsleeve accepted 8 students for the new dorm council. In January, the council hosted a game night, quote, in which 23 of 35 dormies participated. The girls met the boys in a heated game of charades with a free pass for study hour at stake, end quote. Altieri and Shortsleeve also directed a hike, a sledding adventure, and other fun activities during the winter, while hosting a weekly flag football game for the dorm residents. JVC Northwest possesses a past full of inspirational stories and a promising future. For the communities of Hayes and Ashland, JVC Northwest wants to facilitate new service opportunities outside the school systems. For example, in 2008-2009, instead of hiring JVs as reading clinicians at St. Labre, JVs filled 2 new positions, Community Outreach Specialist for St. Labre Youth and Family Service, and Resident Attendant at the Heritage Living Center in Ashland, Montana. The new jobs allowed JVs to expand their scope beyond St. Labre Indian School. The Community Outreach Specialist helps adults find employment and guide them in the job application process. The Resident Attendant assists the elderly at the Heritage Living Center. Therefore, JVs in Ashland not only work with students, but also provide outreach programs for adults and elders. Besides working in Hayes or Ashland, JVs have also established communities in Billings, Missoula, Great Falls, and Helena. Currently, JVC cannot place JVs in all these locations because the application pool is limited. But in 2007, JVC reopened a JV house in Billings to accommodate the increase in volunteers. During the 2007-2008 JVC year, 2 Billings JVs worked in conjunction with Child Protective Service, 2 served as reading clinicians at St. Charles School, and 1 helped organize and mentor children for Big Brothers Big Sisters. By 2010, JVs were working in 4 locations in Montana: Ashland, Billings, Hayes, and Missoula. In fall 2011, Focus, the newsletter of Jesuit Volunteer Corps Northwest, announced, quote, "After 30 years, Jesuit volunteers have returned to St. Xavier, Montana, to serve at Pretty Eagle Catholic Academy in the heart of the Gros Indian Reservation," end quote. Yet, as JVs incorporate new placements and welcome new volunteers, many former JVs continue to look back fondly on their JVC experience and strive to continue living out the 4 values: social justice, simplicity, spirituality, and community. Thank you.